Hello everyone, and welcome to this podcast today. Yeah, I'm going there, feeling more musical every day, much like my old self. I used to sing, excuse me if you hear me with my cup of tea here, very unprofessional for podcasting, but sometimes things are a bit messy, and that's okay. But yeah, I used to sing quite a lot, and I would just burst into a bit like a musical. I would just burst into song and create melodies, and even if it was just about the day I was having, and it wasn't even, it could be just me shopping and the shopping list I had to buy, I would make a song out of it. And actually, you know what? Who I remind myself of, if you've ever read Lord of the Rings, you'll know Tom Bombadil, who was left out of the main film, which, for good reason, I think it would have really probably disturbed the tone of the film. But anyways, he just goes around singing all the time. And he's been around in Middle Earth for a very, very long time, which kind of reminds me of myself, really. We're going to get a bit more tones and floaty things, and I don't know. Who knows? Every podcast is new to me, and I just go with the energy, and I just go with the flow that I'm in, and whatever else comes up. For this episode, I actually wanted to talk about Gemini season. We are in Gemini season. It is the 27th of June. Still find it fascinating that we have these outdated templates that people still use in the Western tropical algorithms, even though quite clearly the sun is very much at the start of Gemini. And I could go into the differences and why tropical, why true sky, I'm still trying to figure out, to be honest, exactly where one correlates to the other and how it's almost like there's a duality now becoming into our existence, as with so many things on this earth plane. I don't necessarily think that tropical is, irrelevant or bad or anything like this. I just think it's a lens, an outdated lens that we might have been wearing in this lifetime. And the cool thing is, once you discover the true sky and actually your true placements, you have something else a new map, a new blueprint, a new area of your own game unlocked. So, it's probably a gift to receive that when the time is right. I obviously grew up looking at constellations and only knowing the tropical placements, so it was only maybe 6 years ago, 7 years ago, when I found out that the stars and the planets and everything were not where they are actually in the sky now, and it blew my mind. And one of the things that I obviously was very curious about was my own sun sign, especially, and all the other signs, the moon, the rising, but actually not a lot changed in my chart. I still, instead of being 24 degrees or 23 degrees sun in Taurus, I became 0 sun in Taurus, and in some other charts 29 degrees of Aries, which to me made a lot of sense because I have this kind of very grounded, reliable, practical nature, but I also have quite a fiery temperament, and especially when I was younger, like my teenage years, I got into quite a lot of trouble with my temper and the way I would stand up for myself. and just didn't want to lose an argument. Like I was quite argumentative actually. So I had like this huge drive and fire in me, and it made a lot of sense to see this sun placement now actually more in between the energies of Taurus and Aries. And Aries was a sign that I actually used to really dislike, even though I had some really close friends who were Aries in tropical, actually. Probably now they'd be Pisces, but actually, no, they would still just about be Aries. Aries is actually very small, a constellation. It's one of the smallest ones in the whole zodiac wheel. So, yeah, some of the shortest days are Aries energy. But yeah, I used to really have a love-hate relationship with my Aries friends. They used to push my buttons so much. But now I realize it was just because they were mirroring back to me those aspects of myself that I disliked, and aspects also of myself that I had suppressed massively, especially as I got older. My fire kind of dwindled, and then I had a very small fire for a long time. And now my fire is burning bright once again. So yeah, I was really fascinated, of course, to discover the true sky and to see what changed for me and if things made more sense. One of the other really striking things to me was that my moon was no longer in Scorpio, but it was actually in Ophiuchus, along with Saturn and Uranus. That was a revelation to me. So a lot of people haven't come across Ophiuchus or may not know much about Ophiuchus, but it's a very, very powerful and potent sign. And once again, it's one of the smallest. It might actually be the smallest constellation, because the sun just literally touches on it just literally touches such a small part of it, but it is there. And so it's such a potent energy, and if you have any placements there, it's really worth exploring what that means, because this sign had been not spoken about for so long, and it is deeply rooted in the feminine mystery, death and rebirth. I know we have Scorpio before that, which is very focused around death and rebirth, but Ophiuchus is like, to me, that really deep feminine wisdom that goes through the generations of women. And it's not to say men can't access this Ophiuchus energy, because of course we have masculine and feminine energies within ourselves. So if you are a male, a masculine in this life, and you have those Ophiuchus codes, you're really here to bring through your own feminine wisdom and your own maternal line wisdom, your ancestral wisdom, and bring it through into this incarnation today. And I feel personally this is like, so we have Orion, who is Ophiuchus's opposite, and Orion to me is the sacred protector. It's kind of how I see the divine masculine in one of his faces, but because I have those Ophiuchus placements, it was very integral to me that I raised up my own masculine energy into this sacred warrior and sacred protector who can basically see the boundaries of protection and where energies need to be removed, so the divine feminine can come into herself and do the sacred work that she's here to do. Ophiuchus is about transformation, and she is, to me, the ultimate healer, because she's been to the underworld and she's gone through every initiation and raised herself back up to the point where now she has the antidote to the poison. and that can represent anything. It can represent our words. It can represent actual illnesses and poisons that might be within the body. It can represent many things, but ultimately you have to go through the depths of your soul and recover all the pieces of your soul and bring it back up to the light. Therefore, you have the antidote. You have risen once more. And she holds the serpent, holds the snake in her hands to say, I have conquered the snake. And of course, snake in many mystery schools and spirituality can mean many things. It can represent Kundalini energy, which is another thing in itself, which I'm not entirely convinced that is a truth to me anymore. I think that we have these wonderful energy channels all throughout our body. And I think the more we actually clear out of our field, out of our template, that's how we can access more and more of this, these energy fields within ourselves. This whole concept of like rising the Kundalini energy up. I mean, I think personally you need to be very grounded and work with the body in a more subtle and softer way than doing things that just activate the nervous system and overwork it or trigger it. I think it's really key to allow the body to move at its own pace and not to just rush it into some sort of psychosis almost. The snake can represent many things, and I have seen it in many forms. Yes, I believe that transformation is the biggest one, and how a snake can obviously have its venom and it can kill, but in Ophiuchus, she rises from the dead because she knows how to overcome the poison. So it's a very powerful placement. There's more to it than that, but that's just what I want to share now in this moment. And Orion is the sacred protector of that. Now, if anyone is familiar with Orion and some of the histories that may have transpired there, we know that Orion in its downfall can be a very war-orientated and destructive sign, and more on the templates of the wounded masculine. But in its true, harmonious, empowered stance, it is the sacred warrior, the sacred protector. And he looks to Ophiuchus and allows her the space to bring her healing magic to this world and beyond. So they are sacred pairing that more and more of this energy is now rising on this planet, which is so, so beautiful to see. So I kind of went off a little bit on some of my own placements in the true sky and different areas that I looked into. But my intention today was actually to talk about Gemini, because it, like I said at the beginning, this is Gemini season right now. And again, interestingly, so I have like a bookmark between my Taurus energy in the middle, and then I have Aries and Gemini either side, which interestingly, again, with Gemini, I had a lot of Gemini friends. I found it challenging because there was lots of things that I disliked about the energy. But again, they're just mirroring things back to myself that I didn't like in me. So I probably got on easier with Gemini for sure. But there were definite elements of that energy that I was just like, oh gosh. One being like, I always found them to be too out there. I'll give you an example. So I grew up with my best friend in first school, and she was a Gemini. And for the first couple of years in school, we were, best friends. We did everything together. We were literally side by side. You couldn't tear us apart. A lot like you see Gemini's twins. We were kind of like that. Wherever she went, I went. It was just the two of us. But then came a time when she was like, I think we should make more friends. And I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, I think we should branch out a little bit and meet some new people and, maybe see what happens. And I remember being so heartbroken. It might have been the first time I had felt heartbreak from a friend, because to me, I felt like she was saying I wasn't enough, I wasn't enough, and she needed to spread her wings and find other people to hang out with. And I'll tell you now, at that point, I was devastated. I didn't show it, but I was. And even at that age, I think I was, 11 years old. Even at that age, I had it in my mind that I had to give her the space to be able to do that and the freedom to do that, even though I felt really sad. She started making friends. And of course she was like, come on, Siobhan, come with us. We're going to go hang out and play basketball. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And you know what? It was definitely needed, because I was super shy and introverted. And even though it took me a long time to warm up, I'm still glad that she did that. But that is such a Gemini energy, is like, I need to explore the world. I need to meet people, make connections, network. They are the air. They are moving quickly, and their energy is just able to go from one place to the next and to engage in lots of different people from backgrounds, cultures, ideas. They are, to me, the networkers. Almost like buzzy bees. They have to pollinate loads of different areas. And that's their energy, and that is the energy that they carry in this life, is to go and to make the connections, to build a framework that then enables the rest of the team and all their different energies to come in and build and create something powerful. Another thing that I love about them is that they carry this natural energy of curiosity and almost childlike wonder. Another example, I went on a date with a guy many, many years ago now. And this was way before I'd awoken spiritually again. I was probably a good 5 years, well, actually more than that, away from awakening again. So I was asleep. I was going out drinking, I was working, I was just doing my normal life back then. And I met this guy and we went out on this date, and he was a Gemini sun. And I remember thinking, what the heck is up with this guy? His head is in the frickin' sky. He's talking about the universe. He's talking about the meaning of life. He's asking me all these types of questions like, what do I believe about this? How do I think about this? What if the world was like this? How do you see this, that, and that? And I was like, what the fudge are you talking about? Just drink your beer. These were the days when I was super like into football and just music, and like I always had this leaning towards the cosmos and stars and constellations. That never changed, but I wasn't like deep into it. Like I mean, it is part of my soul, but I wasn't aware or awakened to my soul at that point. I was just heavily indoctrinated and just so much shite, So I have this guy here in front of me and he's asking me all these like big abstract questions, and I'm like, I don't know what you want from me. It was the most unusual date I ever had, because he said like, let's hike up we're going to go to the cinema and watch a film. but he decided to park his car like 3 kilometers or 5 kilometers away from the cinema. He said, come on, let's hike to the cinema and then we can walk back. And I was like, what the heck is this? We're on a date. I'm not here to walk. But anyways, I agreed, in the interest of experimentation and seeing what he was about. We just, I don't know, we had a deep chat. Like he was able to access me in a way that I guess I hadn't opened up to, apart from maybe my brother. And yeah, we were just having this amazing chat. And the time just flew by. But the whole time I still remember thinking, like, you are just so strange. Like, you're the strangest man I've ever come across. He was very sweet as well. Like, he was very sincere, but he reminded me of like a child because he just had this wonder. We'd be walking through like some trees and he'd be like, look at the shape of that leaf and the colors. And I'm like, okay, dude, are we nearly there? You know? But again, he was showing me a part of myself because actually my nature is very much like that. I do that now, you know, when I'm truly free and myself, I'm looking around and smelling and tasting everything and being like, wow, look at the wonder of existence, you know? So yeah, he definitely must have awakened something in me, but I didn't wake up for many years after that. And we never saw each other after that, even though it was, you know, it was a magical date in a way, but we were just not on the same wavelength at that time, you know. And yeah, so I know I probably rejected him because I was like, you're too weird. But I actually love weird now. I really do. That's just like another example of that sort of Gemini energy. They're like this magical, whimsical, in awe being that just wants to know everything and question and speak and almost interview you, but they're finding, and they'll break your perceptions as well. This is the other thing I love about them, is they'll ask you, you know, why do you think that? Quite often they'll mirror something back to you that just shatters your perception or that belief that you are carrying, and that is such sacred work. They are the sacred mirror, the sacred reflection. Their duty, their job here is to be that multidimensional lens that can see from so many angles and that can break the illusions in your field so that you can be more free. Because they are naturally just so free. They're so free. And if they're not, you know, we still have the shadow aspects of each sign. And for Gemini, the imposter syndrome, they can have mental health challenges because they really like to be stimulated intellectually. And if they're not getting that, you know, if they're not being seen for who they are, that can really dial them down. They can also be told that they're too much, they're too talkative, they're too this, too that. Perhaps even some of them have been diagnosed with ADHD, you know, because they're just so able to handle vast amounts of information and to just be so full of energy. And so this world naturally wants to dial those types of people down because I want to say it frightens other people, but it's just too much, you know, for so many people because a lot of beings here are just depressed and down and medicated. And so you get this beautiful, radiant Gemini energy and people don't know how to handle it. That's one of the biggest things that they can face, you know, that big rejection of themselves. And it can take a little while to build that confidence up and to see just how amazing they are and the energy that they carry and the curiosity. And don't forget, they love learning. They love absorbing information and passing information. That's another big, big thing that they're here to do. They're very inspiring, and I now have so much love for my Gemini sons. And if you have a lot of placements in Gemini as well. You're carrying that energy too. You are a multi-dimensional diamond. You are here to shine. You are here to connect people, to be the winds of change, to move things along. We need your energy to progress and to make those connections that then foster this team of collaboration around you. You are so needed. So shout out to all you Geminis out there. Big love to you. And yeah, some of the things that you can do in Gemini season right now to connect to the energy and to ground in, breath work, breathing is so key. Gemini basically has connections to the lungs, the nerves, the hands. They're fast, they're electric, so you need to make sure that if you feel that heightened energy, that you can find somewhere to ground. Go actually sit by a tree, put your feet on the ground without your shoes on, and just breathe. Even things like qigong, moving your hands, moving your arms, possibly just dancing and rhythmically moving your body around, just to allow the energy to circulate. So important for Geminis to find that circulation and support, even if you have to do and receive some magnesium support. Go out there and find what works for you. Speak to people who know about these things. And also herbalists. Go and find some good herbalists that can bring you some beautiful teas that can support you at this time. So important to get good rest and hydrate yourself. These are key times. That's all I kind of want to say today about Gemini season, and this is really a beautiful time of opening up and connecting. We're just in the height of summer. We've just had the summer solstice, and this is when the summer is all about connection and celebration and festivals, being with each other. And this is when Gemini is here to flourish. They are setting the bars before Cancer season. They are making the connections. They are communicating. And their energy field is just vibrating and bringing that just awesome energy. That's everything for today, my loves. Thank you so much for listening. And if you heard some noises in the background at any point, that's just little Rocco. I'm trying to get him to go to sleep. But hopefully there wasn't too many disturbances. All right, my dears. Speak to you soon. Much love.